The government shutdown is coming at an already difficult time for some farmers. In Minnesota, it's the time of year when crops start getting harvested. And our next guest says the last thing hardworking farmers need is more uncertainty as they head into winter.
Our entire cost structure has gone here, but our revenue has done this. So this is where we find ourselves for the last 2-3 years, kind of, and it's quite challenging. I mean, it's a bloodbath, or becoming one.
All right, for those people who aren't economists like me and are just good old country folks, I'm going to break this down for you. So China got pissed off at Trump, and they said, we're going to take our 1.5 billion soybean-eating mouths, and we're going to go buy them from somewhere else. And then American farmers said, hold on, we've been selling all these soybeans to China, and now China says they don't want them from us. What are we going to do? And MAGA said, well, farmers need to be growing crops for America anyway. And farmers said, we ain't got 1.5 billion Americans. So Trump said, I love farmers. I would never do anything to hurt farmers. Who could have possibly seen this coming? Who? So he said, I'm going to bail y'all out, and I'm going to use the taxes that I've been collecting from the working class. Tariffs that I've been collecting from the working class, and I'm going to help the farmers out. And MAGA says, holy crap. He's playing 3D chess. Did I get that? Is that all? I got it. Okay. All right. Love y'all.
All right. Let's talk about something wild. You know those people who spent years screaming about handouts and socialism and how government assistance was ruining America? The ones with the flags, the trucks, the whole don't tread on me vibe? Yeah, they're currently begging the government for money. American farmers are in crisis, and a lot of them voted for the exact policies that put them there. Tariffs killed their export markets. China went to Brazil. Immigration crackdowns destroyed their workforce. And now, their farms are collapsing. So they want bailouts from the same government they said was the problem. Here's the real story. While we're all busy laughing at the irony, corporations are quietly buying up these failing farms. Billionaires and hedge funds are turning American agriculture into another asset they control. Welcome back to Mind Mirror. Let's break this down.
Darling, I wish I could agree with you on this, that you feel that the majority of farmers wouldn't vote for this, but 73% of farmers did vote for Trump. And you are correct, it is laid out in Project 2025, especially the elimination of export promotion program. See, those programs would assist farmers in selling their agricultural goods overseas. And now that it's exponentially harder, that they're in the find out phase, and now that they're getting bailouts, but they still can't sell their crops, what's the point of them planting next year? They're going to end up selling their farms, and cheaply, as quick as they fucking can. And the ones that are going to be buying them up are the corporations, just like I said. And they could have done something for themselves, but they didn't.
Our very livelihoods are at stake, says every soybean farmer that voted for Trump but has had a family farm for 200 years that's been government subsidized and bailed out. Now you're growing soybeans, which is not really bought domestically as much as overseas, which is totally fine, except you've really not been doing anything for America. You've only been working for corporations. And now that you voted against your best interests and the best interests of people that don't share your skin color, you're like, hey, more socialism, please. And when I show you the big reveal, Caleb Ragland, when you see him, are you going to be like, oh, I didn't know farmers looked like that, farmers that voted for Trump? Or are you going to be like, there's Caleb, I don't know, let's see. 1, 2, 3. Give us our country back. No more money, dude. You're clearly not smart enough to use it. How many millions do you need?
All right, let's talk about this for a second. Family farms subsidized for 200 years. Government bailouts every time prices drop. And now they're mad they can't sell soybeans to China after voting for the guy who started a trade war with China. You're growing a crop that America barely consumes domestically. Your entire business model depends on export markets, specifically China. And then you voted for someone who made China your enemy. That's not economics. That's self-sabotage. And here's the practical reality. China didn't just stop buying out of spite. They went to Brazil. They signed long-term contracts. They built supply chains that don't include us anymore. You can't just snap your fingers and get that back. So when you're sitting there asking for your country back, what does that even mean? You want the government to force China to buy your beans? That's not how the world works. That's not capitalism. That's not even reality.
From our government, the taxpayers, before you can run your business on your own and you don't scream to the government for more help when stuff goes wrong. Did you know that we all deal with economic ups and downs without getting handouts like that? Did you know that most businesses don't get millions from the government? We actually have to figure it out. And now that you guys are trying to take Social Security from grannies and grandmas and grandpas, I guess there's twice as many $70 a day, and they don't deserve it. But you want more, even though you've not been able to do this for hundreds of years. You've needed help and more money. And is that the face of a guy that's going to get it this time? I don't.
I tell you what, I think the only people that have fucked around and found out harder than federal employees that voted for Trump is farmers that voted for Trump.
Yeah, farmers and federal employees. Two groups that absolutely got blindsided by their own votes. But here's what gets me. This isn't new. Trump's first term already showed us what happens. Farmers lost billions. Suicide rates in rural America spiked. Bankruptcies went through the roof. And who profited? Corporations. Big ag. The people buying up those foreclosed farms. So the lesson for anyone watching, when someone tells you they're going to shake things up and drain the swamp, ask yourself who actually gets hurt when the shaking starts. Because it's never the people at the top. If you're in agriculture or any industry that relies on stable trade relationships, you need to understand that tariffs aren't free. Somebody pays, and it's usually not the billionaires.
This farmer voted for Trump. Now his family farm is barely getting by. The Thomases took a 10% hit when the Trump administration abruptly cut $1 billion from two programs that supplied local produce and meat to schools and food banks across the country. Two things Republicans hate: schools and food banks. Said the financial insecurity makes my depression worse, Jacob said recently. He was trying to remain optimistic, reminding himself it was still earlier in the year. Just because one program went away, there's still plenty of time to pivot. Though the Thomases and many of their neighbors voted for Donald Trump last November, the consequences of this administration's wide-ranging cuts and uncertainty over tariffs have already had a profound impact on this hilly corner of northeast Kansas, one of the hardest-hit states for agriculture during Trump's last trade war. It says, for many, the pride that they felt when President Trump spoke of his love for farmers in his March 6th address to Congress has given way to a growing sense of helplessness, frustration, and anger.
How did you not learn from his first term? That's the question, right? Because we already did this. 2018, tariffs on China, retaliatory tariffs on American agriculture, billions in losses, emergency bailouts, the whole cycle, and somehow people thought it would be different the second time. Here's the hard truth. If you're making business decisions based on campaign promises instead of economic fundamentals, you're setting yourself up to fail. Politicians say what gets them elected. Markets do what makes sense for markets. China wasn't going to wait around hoping America would change its mind. They found other suppliers, and now those suppliers have the relationships, the infrastructure, the contracts. You don't just walk back into that.
How did you not learn from his first term? It's like people have no memory.
There's a major outcry going on in the US farming industry right now because so many farms are struggling. And I've seen videos this afternoon from Arkansas, for example, where farmers have got together and they're asking Trump for social assistance. They're saying, hey, help us out. But this is the policies that they voted for. They voted for mass deportations. And now it's going south on them big time. So what do these guys expect? You know? And now they're asking for money because their farms are going out of business. They said their markets have been taken away from them. They said they don't have enough labor to pick the crops. And as a result of that, their farms are dying. And so is the livelihood. But these are guys, especially in Arkansas, who voted overwhelmingly for Donald Trump and his policies. And now they're asking for handouts. Sorry, folks. No sympathy from me. Let me know what you think about this in the comments.
This is the part that's hard to watch. Mass deportations destroying the labor force, tariffs killing export markets, and now farmers are asking for handouts after voting for both of those policies. Look, I get it. Farming is tough. But when you support policies that directly undermine your own business, you can't act surprised when your business collapses. And here's what needs to be said. This isn't about schadenfreude. It's about understanding cause and effect. If you want a functional agricultural sector, you need immigrant labor. You need trade agreements. You need export markets. Those aren't liberal talking points. They're economic realities. So if you're a farmer watching this happen to your neighbors, or worried it's coming for you next, this is the moment to reassess. Not who you vote for necessarily, but what policies actually keep your operation running.
So this is a message to the MAGA farmers who are losing their farms because of the current administration. This is a message to the MAGA veterans and military who are watching their health care be destroyed and workers be fired and billions of dollars going from quality of life measures for troops to the border. This is a message for the MAGA poor who are watching their Medicare and their Medicaid and Social Security getting ready to get chopped. This is a message for all those people who thought things were going to get better. They don't care about you. The Republican Party doesn't care about you. They needed you for your votes. Some still do. And all the Republican representatives and senators, they just needed you to vote for him so that they could help get that giant tax cut for the oligarchs who fund them. They have never, ever cared about you. There's a part of you deep down that may be starting to realize this, and I hope you do, because your life will get better. All of these people, if you're living in red states and all of the indicators of quality of life continue to fall, wages don't rise, education continues to fail, and you're led by Republican leadership, the GOP, and it has never gotten better, only worse, while the rich inside your state get more and more corrupt and wealthy. This might be your time to do something about it. I'm just saying, maybe it was all a lie. Maybe they never cared about you and they never will. Just think about that.
This hits at something deeper. The Republican Party has been selling rural America a bill of goods for decades. Lower taxes, fewer regulations, less government. And what's actually happened? Rural hospitals close, schools lose funding, infrastructure crumbles, and every time there's a crisis, the only solution is another bailout for the people at the top. Meanwhile, the social safety net that regular people rely on gets shredded. Here's the practical advice. If you're in a red state and your quality of life keeps declining, look at who's actually benefiting from the policies being passed, because it's probably not you. And that's not a partisan statement. That's just math. Follow the money. See who gets richer while your town gets poorer. Then ask yourself if those are the people who actually care about your future.
So Ed, when you said that, it reminded me of the story of these Arkansas farmers that are pleading with the U.S. government to save them, because China's not buying any soy, yes. China's not buying corn. And, this is probably unrelated, but I saw something that said the 400 richest people in the U.S. are now worth a record $6.6 trillion after getting 1.2 trillion richer over the past year. It'll trickle down any day now. So
any day. Those farmers are waiting. It's coming.
Farmers in Arkansas, Tennessee, and Iowa are not able to sell their products due to the illegal Trump tariffs. The biggest international crop purchasers, like China, are buying their products from Brazil and Argentina, while Don Jr. still only buys his products from Colombia. Republican farmers are begging for a bailout from the successful blue state taxpayers. Even Iowa Senator Chuck Grassley, who is an agriculture expert because he is in fact older than dirt, has complained about the guy he has also done nothing to stop. And so farmers now are approaching the boll weevil in chief, who, to be fair, did marry a scarecrow, and they're begging, straw hat in hand, for a handout. We're left with the leading feature of modern republicanism: welfare queens in overalls. FarmersOnly.com meets Ashley Madison. News from the forest.
Okay, that's harsh, but also kind of accurate. Because here's the contradiction. You can't spend years railing against welfare, food stamps, unemployment benefits, and government assistance, and then demand a bailout the second your business struggles. Either you believe in the free market or you don't. Either you think people should succeed or fail on their own merit, or you think the government should step in during hard times. You don't get to pick and choose based on whether it's your crisis or someone else's. And look, I'm not saying farmers don't deserve help, but if we're helping farmers, we should also help single parents, unemployed workers, people struggling with medical debt. The principle is the same.
Today, you probably seen all the videos about cloning American farmers, right? You know, China cut off soybeans again. You know, serves you right. I get it. They're back to Trump. They got burned. They're going to burn before, and they're still with him on the second term. It's very easy to say that's what you got. Here's the truth. Mocking them is just going to help the people on top. Farmers are going bankrupt. And who is buying up their land? The capitalists, hedge fund, billionaires, big agribusinesses. They are turning food into another assets. Think about that. Food is basic resource, and we are letting those ruling class taking control of it and taking advantage of this situation. At Trump's first term, last trade war, farmers lost billions. Some even lost their lives. Meanwhile, corporations raking record profit. Capital did not suffer. Labor did. And it's happening again. We have to understand that farmers are not the enemy. They are trapped in debt, trapped in subsidies, trapped in media bubble. Just like all the warehouse workers, factory workers, you laugh at them, you push them further away. And the elites loves that. My opinion, this is actually, right now, is actually the best chance to talk to them, to explain the bigger picture, the class divide, the way capital plays all of us, to show the workers, farmers, students, we are all in the same fight. If we are divided, it's powerless, but united, it's dangerous. That's why they keep us mocking each other instead of linking up. So don't waste this moment. Use it and build unity.
Now this is the smart take, because mocking struggling farmers doesn't help anyone except the corporations waiting to buy up their land when they go bankrupt. And that's exactly what's happening. Hedge funds, billionaires, private equity firms, they're salivating over this. Every family farm that goes under is another opportunity for consolidation. So yeah, farmers made bad political choices, but they're still workers. They're still getting squeezed by the same system that squeezes warehouse workers, gig workers, teachers, nurses. The real fight isn't rural versus urban or red versus blue. It's labor versus capital. And the moment we realize that, the moment we stop letting ourselves get divided, that's when things actually change. So instead of laughing at farmers losing their land, maybe ask who's buying it, and then ask if that's the future we want.
I have a full article on Substack, link in bio, and with more context and breakdown. Share this around and follow for more. Thanks, guys. Take care.
People effed around, and now they're finding out. And no group of people is going to find out more quickly than farmers, because they're really going to get screwed. With the cutting of this USAID program, they're really going to get hit hard. Anyways, what was the purpose of that? The purpose was to provide humanitarian relief around the world. And a big part of that was providing food to desperate people around the world. And what we did through that program is purchase a lot of agricultural products produced by American farmers and then distribute those products around the world. Now that money is being withheld illegally, but it's being withheld, and farmers are not getting paid, and their products, their agricultural products, are no longer being purchased by the federal government. I saw a guy, you've probably seen this, it's gone viral, some MAGA farmer complaining about how all these contracts he had to sell hundreds of thousands of dollars of agricultural products to the federal government, that's all being cut now. And he's out hundreds of thousands of dollars. And he specifically starts the video by saying he voted for Donald Trump.
There are a lot of people who are very concerned out there who voted for this administration. But, you know, they wrote it all down in Project 2025. I guess we should have paid a little closer attention to what was in that. I read the agriculture section. I know it better than I probably should. But it was there. It was all in writing. We probably should have paid closer attention to it. I'll just say this. I think it's time for this administration to recognize who put them into office, and also to understand that these people are hurting, and this only adds to the hurt that they're already dealing with.
Yeah, you should have. Because it was all there. The cuts to USA aid, the elimination of food assistance programs, the trade policies that would decimate agricultural exports. None of this is a surprise to anyone who actually read the policy proposals. But here's the lesson. Campaign slogans aren't policy. Make America Great Again isn't an economic plan. And when you vote based on vibes instead of actual proposals, you get exactly what we're seeing now. For anyone in any industry, don't just listen to what candidates say. Read their actual policy documents, understand what they're proposing, and then ask yourself, does this help me or does it help someone else?
Caleb Ragland is the president of the American Soybean Association, and he just wrote an op-ed for a right-wing publication, and he said in there, quote, "Like many of my fellow farmers, I voted for President Donald Trump in the past 3 elections. The president won me over with his commitment to business-friendly tax cuts, as well as his track record of reducing regulation and cutting government spending. I am one of 500,000 soybean farmers in America who feels the pain. As a businessman, President Trump must know how urgent this is." Does he? Is he? Anyway, he goes on to say, the current trade war with China is a gamble with American livelihoods, especially for farmers, those of us who grew up with soil and sweat, who can't imagine doing anything else. Mr. President, I hope you hear our plea. Please make a deal with China now. Yeah, so he doesn't get it. He doesn't get it. There is no deal to be had. As of now, the majority of Trump's base is sticking with him on these tariffs. But it's gonna catch up with them. They're gonna realize sooner or later there are no deals.
There it is, people. What I tell you guys on my last video. These are all traitors. All these farmers, every single one of them complying. They're all traitors, and it must be stopped. This is a planned famine. Traitors to the people of America.
All right, calling farmers traitors is way over the line. They're not traitors. They're victims of their own political choices. Sure. But they're not villains. What we're seeing is a planned consolidation of American agriculture. Small farms fail. Big corporations buy them up. Food production gets centralized. Prices go up. And everyday people lose access to locally grown food. That's not a conspiracy. That's capitalism functioning exactly as designed. So the real question is, do we want a food system controlled by a handful of massive corporations? Or do we want small and mid-sized farms that are actually sustainable? Because if it's the latter, we need to support those farms even when they make political choices we disagree with. Otherwise, we're just helping Blackstone and Cargill take over.
Crop prices are crashing because they can't sell to the biggest markets, China, Mexico, Europe, due to Trump's tariffs. And equipment costs are skyrocketing because of Trump's steel and aluminum tariffs. So American farmers are now paying more to produce food they can't sell. And join us for more at culturalperspective.com. Because this isn't random politics, it's cause and effect. The American political system creates a situation in which individuals with no experience, minimal education, and no specific knowledge can run for office, and at the same time creates a situation in which the most popular person, not the best person, gets elected, and which those running for office can lie without consequence. So it's no surprise that America is in serious trouble. American farmers overwhelmingly voted for Trump. They didn't get what they voted for. Layoffs are already picking up pace in the farming industry, and it's just a matter of time before we see a strong uptick in farmers losing their farms. What I don't understand is why so many farmers who are losing money and soon their farms, and so many workers still support him. Let me know what you think in the comments.
There it is, people. What I tell you guys on my last video. These are all traitors. All these farmers, every single one of them complying. They're all traitors, and it must be stopped. This is a planned famine. Traitors to the people of America.
Donald Trump sent $20 billion to Argentina to help them through an economic difficulty and to try to limit Chinese influence on the country. And how did Argentina repay us? By immediately selling millions in soybeans to China, stealing U.S. soybean market. And MAGA is losing it because this is not what Donald Trump promised. He promised we would put America first. And now, because of his trade war that he has no plan to win, no idea how to win, he is betraying all of his promises. But think of this. MAGA, farmers, two voting blocks for Donald Trump are both losing in this situation. So the question has to be asked. How many more times will you believe Donald Trump? How many more times will you believe Republicans before you realize they're lying to you, except when they say they don't care about you, they just want your vote?
Farmers laying awake, crying at night because they're cash strapped. Look at this. Farmers and cattle ranchers are short 150,000 workers to pick crops. Fruit is rotting on the ground. No soybean deals with China, which is 60% of what they normally sell every year. Zero deals. Farm equipment. John Deere is losing millions of dollars due to tariffs. And farmers, if they have the money, are buying used equipment. Farmers who every single time vote for this administration, and every single time, this is an exact replica, but times 10 from his first term. Farmers crying at night, and many of them, I bet you, would say they'd vote for him again. Getting exactly what you voted for. And guess what? Blackstone and JD Vance are ready to come in and swoop up your bankrupt farms. MAGA, farmers, I have zero sympathy for you. Zero.
Have you guys heard about the crisis that Trump has created for American farmers? It's all over my For You feed. A lot of these farmers are about to lose their farms right now, and this is an alarming situation. This is directly related to Trump's policies, specifically the tariffs. He set the tariffs so high on China that they're no longer purchasing soybeans in the USA. Soybeans are the biggest export of farmers to China. And right now, China's not importing any of our soybeans. Now they're buying the soybeans from Brazil and Argentina. And get this, our taxpayer dollars. And what did Argentina do? They lowered the export rate on all of their soybeans to China so that they can sell them even cheaper. Now, if there's anything that pisses off conservative Republicans, it's our government funding another country and enabling them to outbid us on our products. A lot of our farmers are stuck with soybean crops that they can't even give away. Trump has promised to give them a subsidy, which kind of turns them into welfare recipients because they're taking a government handout because the government screwed them over to begin with. But these subsidies are going to be too little and too late for a lot of farmers who have already lost their farms. So it's no wonder that Donald Trump's latest approval rating has dropped to an all-time low of 37%. When I tell you that his own people are the ones that he needs to be scared of, I mean it. Farmers have overwhelmingly voted for Trump. You can call it karma, but it's nothing to celebrate because this is going to hit the American economy really hard.
We have to have ad hoc payments right now to make it through this year.
If there's no emergency funding this year, there will be 1 out of 3 farmers will file bankruptcy.
1 out of 3 farmers will file bankruptcy without emergency funding. Let that sink in. A third of American farms could disappear this year. And yeah, a lot of these farmers voted for the policies causing this, but their kids didn't, their employees didn't, the communities that rely on those farms didn't. So when we're talking about bailouts, we need to separate the politics from the reality. Do we let a third of our agricultural sector collapse to teach people a lesson? Or do we stabilize the situation and then have a serious conversation about trade policy? I'd argue for the latter, not because farmers deserve it, but because food security matters, because rural economies matter, because letting everything collapse just to prove a point is cutting off your nose to spite your face.
So, do you guys think it's possible that these farmers from Arkansas maybe voted for Donald Trump?
Our government's going to give us a little bit of a, I guess y'all going to call it a bailout. It's a subsidy.
As a lifelong farmer, having been retired because my profoundly disabled child could no longer live on the farm, you've got to be kidding me. It was okay for you if he lost his health care. You didn't care. You don't care that ACA premiums are going up 75%. You don't care that my 90-year-old mother can't get medical care. She was a farmer too. She was born during the Great Depression. But a bailout for you and nothing for her, nothing for my child, and nothing for anyone else's child. You've got to be kidding. And if anybody's still here, the tariffs are my money and your money, not the government's money.
Well, farmers and ranchers, as if it wasn't bad enough that we're going to see tariffs on our products from the likes of Canada, Mexico, China, and possibly even the European Union, President Trump announced today that he thinks it would be a great idea to tariff the products we're sending out of our own country. Before I show you the president's Truth Social post from this morning, one that's going to give you great consternation and maybe even a crinkling of the nose, let's talk again about what we're already facing in rural America in the areas of agriculture, farming, and ranching. We've talked before about the fact that the Chinese are much better prepared for tariffs this time around. Last time, they had a disease going through their pork population, which made it nearly impossible for them to refuse American pork products, and they had no reserves, and not a great relationship with Brazil, which meant that they still had to buy American soybeans and corn to meet the needs that they had. This time around, that's simply not the case. They have no disease in their pork population or in any other livestock population. And in addition to that, they have a nice, cozy relationship with Brazil, to the point that they've gone from purchasing 13% of their agricultural row crop products from Brazil to over 40%. Additionally, our earlier threats to Canada and Mexico, which should play out this week, that we were going to tariff items from their country, led to a patriotic response where they're buying 27% less in American agricultural products than they did before the tariffs were threatened.
And here's the final kicker. Now Trump wants to tariff our own exports. Products leaving America would get taxed by America. That's not economic policy. That's economic suicide. Because if you're a foreign buyer, why would you purchase American products that are more expensive due to tariffs when you can buy the same thing from Brazil or Argentina without the extra cost? You wouldn't, and they're not. So American farmers are stuck. Can't sell internationally because of tariffs. Can't sell domestically because Americans don't consume most of what they grow, and can't get bailouts because the government is cutting spending. This is what happens when you prioritize political theater over economic reality, and the people who pay the price are never the ones making the decisions.